Hello there, hi, and welcome to another episode of Creatives on the Couch with me, Reese Ryan, and my gorgeous wife,
Hello.
Monique. How are you?
I'm fine, darling.
This looks beautiful. It's very Emerald City
Do you
today.
like it?
I really, really like
Can I
it.
use that jacket?
What an episode we have got for you today. If you're a Star Wars fan, you are in the right place. We have got returning guest Paddy O'Hare. Welcome once again. We've got the gorgeous Neil Livesey, and we've got Paul Dunne. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's not very often we get in fact, this is the first
First.
time that we've
is.
had 3 guests on one show. Thank you for being here. Wow, look at you all. You're sort of like rabbits in headlights at the moment. Breathe. There we are.
Oh, good.
So,
A few more cameras since last time I was here.
yeah, it's changed a little bit, and we've got a brand new set as
Yeah, I
well.
love
Do you
it.
like it?
I
It's
love
nice,
it.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's really good, and we've got more crew as well. You can't see those at home. So, Star Wars. This is what brings you all together, isn't it? You know, your love of the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah.
What is it about Star Wars you love? Why?
For me, there's never been anything like it before or since. And I remember as a 16, 17-year-old guy picking up the local paper and reading about this new film that was going to come out, Star Wars. And I quite like science fiction. You know, I'd watched Doctor Who. I loved Thunderbirds as a kid and all that kind of thing. But this just looked like something different, something special. And I went along with all the hype, you know, because the poster magazines came out first before the movie and all that good stuff. And then when the movie came out, I was just absolutely blown away.
Right.
As I said, nothing like it before or since for me.
Yeah, I think it was mainly because of the special effects. Films, you know, have been going on for years, you know, and old school silver screen Hollywood. But like I said, there was something different about this, wasn't there?
Absolutely.
Something about the
For me, it was the first. It was the first film I went to see with my parents
okay.
in the local cinema, and I just remember sitting there with my parents, just watching it. It's just like wow,
Yeah.
because you've never seen out like it. The special effects were just
And for the era of film, you know, like the fighting scenes in space, you know, and the lasers and that moment where Darth Vader appears, you know, you're talking goosebump territory, aren't you?
and
really?
also you could
know?
take it home here because you could get the action figures, you
Of
could
course.
play with the
Yeah.
action figures.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that had never been done with like your likes of Doctor Who. I mean, space exploration and time travel and stuff like that had been touched on, but this was something
It was
unlike.
the beginning of
Absolutely.
merchandising in a lot of ways, wasn't it? I mean, Spielberg started kind of invented the blockbuster with Jaws.
Yes.
And there was quite a bit of merchandising around that, but toys wise, it wasn't really a thing hugely, which is why, you know, when Lucas was sorting the deal out for Star Wars, he was like, "Can I have the merchandising?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, take it." What a mistake that was!
Oh, is that real?
Yeah. So that's how
Oh,
he
yeah.
made most of the money, was out of the merchandising,
Oh, right.
because he didn't have a great deal on distribution and stuff, did he? It was the main thing was.
Probably. Do you think he realised that it was going to be global, or did he
He
not
must
think?
have done that.
Well,
I mean,
the stories that he didn't. He thought it was going to be a complete flop, and when the premiere took place, he didn't attend. He went to Hawaii
that's right.
Really?
With Spielberg.
on holiday because he just thought he'd made a turkey.
That's true.
But you know, as Paddy says, not really been any sort of merchandised movies before.
Yeah.
There were some little figurines from Dr. No from the James Bond movies, but they were static. They weren't
Okay.
Yeah.
action figures
Sure.
that you could play with.
Thunderbirds toys, I suppose, was it? Yeah.
Well, Thunderbirds was a TV show for a start.
Yeah, of
and,
course, yeah.
and they did the vehicles, but not figures.
Yeah.
That's the
in
thing.
early
That's the
days.
thing.
They,
You could
they did them later in the 90s, but not.
Yeah.
You
that's
could
right.
go and watch Darth Vader, and then you could go home and you could guide the character and you could play
Recreate
it.
them.
And they were available everywhere, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
I have to say, I'm quite envious of guys like these who are younger than me, because at 17 I collected these toys but never played with them.
Right. Okay.
Where they got to make up their own adventures
Yeah.
with the toys.
But I as well. I mean, you know, I'm an '80s lad, as you know, Monique's an '80s little girl. Were you into Star Wars?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I watched it
Yeah.
now and again, but
You see,
I really. I thought it was for me. It was more of a
I
thing
think-
for the lads, for the boys.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just felt it's one of my earliest memories. Me and my brother, you know, who do you want to be? You know, because you could buy the lightsabers from Woolworths, and
Yeah.
you know, and I'd never had a toy that you know, my dad could put a battery in and it would
Yeah.
and that sound, you know, it was always Lego and stuff like that, you know,
Yeah,
in
that's
the 80s,
right.
and suddenly, you know, I could have the red lightsaber, my little bro could have the blue, and we could do battle.
Puts you in the story.
Yeah, and recreate what's going on there, you know, and I think that was something really, really special.
There's something about
This
that
franchise,
lightsaber, isn't it, when it makes that noise? It's just...
it's unreal.
Do you remember the conversation that Lucas and Spielberg had while they was hiding from the Star Wars, thinking it was going to be a flop?
No, I don't think I do. Remind me.
So they were both hiding in Hawaii, waiting for the Star Wars bomb to drop or whatever. And Lucas said to Spielberg, "What are you going to do next?" And he said, "I want to direct a James Bond film." He said, "I've got something much better than James Bond. It's called Indiana Jones."
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that
And
story.
that's
That's
how-
great.
And that's how, because obviously, you know,
It
you
was called Indiana Smith then. But
Really?
Yeah, they changed it.
Oh.
Spielberg said, "There's the one thing I don't like is the name."
Yeah,
What
he
about
was
Indiana
right.
Jones? Okay.
And yet,
Jones sounds
and if you put
better.
them together, Smith and Jones, you know, look at what that became in this country, you know. Because you have your Finding Ford, you are a Harrison Ford fanatic. We have spoke about that on another episode.
True story.
But you know,
That's where it started.
your love
That's where it started.
of Harrison
Because
Ford.
I mean, I don't know what you guys felt about it when you first saw it, but I specifically remember. I think I saw A New Hope on VHS, but I saw Empire at the cinema for sure when I was like 3 or something. But for me, it was straight away was like most of my mates wanted to be Luke Skywalker, or you know, the girls wanted to be Princess Leia or whatever, and I just saw Han Solo and was like, that's the dude from straight away, and that's where it began.
See, I always want to be the baddie.
You
Always the baddie.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't matter what film franchise, you know, I am drawn to the bad guys, yeah. Unless it's Spaceballs, of course, you know, John Candy in Spaceballs.
Pizza the Hut.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it, really? Absolutely incredible.
I love it.
So, I mean, you have your Comic Cons as well, you know, your version of the Comic Cons, and they are doing absolutely spectacular, aren't they? So, you know, what have you got sort of coming up at the moment? What's happening in your world?
We're still doing the Comic Cons. We've cut down the number, but we're doing 3 a year now.
Okay.
But we're, you know, as we're here talking Star Wars, the one that we love the most, Paul and I, is the Star Wars Fan Fun Day.
Yes.
Which is held. It used to be the nearest bank holiday to May the 4th, for obvious reasons.
Yep.
It's now the nearest Sunday to May the 4th.
Do you get that? Do you know why?
No idea.
Well, the tagline for Star Wars is "May the Force be with you." So
Right.
May the 4th.
Ah, right, clever. Okay.
Yeah.
Star Wars Day.
Star Wars Day.
Yeah. So we're still doing that. Still getting lots of the actors to come along and sign autographs and do photos with the fans and so on. All good fun.
You're very fair with your fans. You have a big support network of people who come to see your events, and you know, I've been to a lot of your events and they are absolutely spectacular.
Thank you.
But you're very fair. You keep your prices low. You're in it for the fans and for the love of Star Wars.
Our
aren't you?
events are organised by the fans for fans. We are fans.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day. That's what we are. We are fans.
And you have
And
brought
we,
some.
and we want
amazing
to make
people.
them accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
I have to say as well, like, speaking as a punter at your events, like your Star Wars Fan Fun Day, I think it was 2013, was the first convention I'd been to, because as a kid I was only able to do like collectors fairs and things like that. There was these things didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then it was when I ran into Cookson via somebody else, and he was telling me all about this stuff and getting autographs, and I was like, really? So like I turned up, and it was like I was able to go meet Dave Prowse and meet Julian Glover. Was such a huge one. I like took a hat and everything. I must have annoyed him. I was trying to get him to do lines out of Last Crusade and everything. I was like, it was so exciting.
Good,
so
I mean, we've
I've got to
bumped
thank
in-
you for that, to be able to actually reach into the films as we were talking
Well,
about.
that's what a lot of people do, don't they? I mean, you know, this is a way of the fans of the movies to come to your events and actually meet some of their heroes.
Yeah.
You know, we've been friends a very long time, but we've bumped into each other at these events, haven't
Yeah.
we? And then the last one that we were at together for you, you'd obviously got Dave Prowse there, Darth Vader. It was one of his last events, you know, before he passed. But what a treat, you know, for the people to be able to sit and have a conversation with Darth Vader.
It's the whole overall experience, which, you know, I've told Neil this story. the Star Wars Fan Thunder, a bit like Paddy, was the first event I ever went to.
Yeah.
And it was the very first one. So the only guest there were Kenny Baker. And
Yeah.
I know I know exactly what you say, or it was tiny and there were nothing there. But I remember driving up to the industrial estate where it were.
Yeah.
And on the security gates, instead of guys lifting the barrier up, it were 2 stormtroopers.
Wow.
And it was like, that's the first time I've ever seen a real stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Because they're real.
Yeah.
But I remember lifting them barriers up,
Yes.
them stormtroopers, and it was like, I've never seen
Move along.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
But that's it, and for the children, the fans of the show, and for the elder people, you know, like you said, you only had Kenny Baker there. Okay, that is R2D2.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest characters in living movie history, sat in front of you, you know, and what a gentleman, you know, what a
He was great.
nice guy. And I think that is something special, and that because Comic Cons took over the world, didn't they? They suddenly went absolutely crazy and went everywhere.
Yeah.
But for you to go on to what you're good at and what you guys know, which is Star Wars, you know, for the fans is amazing, you know.
And what's also amazing is that we worked with these guys on the conventions for so many years that they became friends. You know, the numbers are in my phone, and we speak regularly. And I think that it's not just us as organisers. The fans, they're very accessible to the fans, the Star Wars actors, and that's what sets them apart from other franchises for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously you collect toys.
I do, yeah.
For everybody watching at home, Neil has got one of the greatest and largest collections of Star Wars toys, probably anywhere really. Having your collection is
There are some
phenomenal.
bigger collections than mine, but I would say it's probably one of the biggest in the UK. Yeah,
it's
One of the
You
biggest.
brought a couple, just a couple. So what's
just
the
brought-
relevance of these?
I just brought these in because there's a nice story behind these figures. So when Star Wars came out and Ken had got the license, they were working from black and white photographs to make these figures. So they had a black and white photograph of this guy who's called Snaggletooth, and the photo was from the waist up. So they made him 3 3/4, which is the size that these figures are, and put him a blue jumpsuit on, as you can see. When the film came out, he was actually a short character dressed in red. So what they did is they immediately withdrew that figure,
Right.
and this is the one that went on the shelves. But of course, they had a number of these figures in stock. So in the UK, in the US, they did a lot of exclusives. So they did an exclusive for Sears, the department store, and it was called the Creature Cantina. It was basically a piece of cardboard of the exterior of the cantina with some little pegs that you could put these figures on. And they put 4 figures in. They put Walrus Man, Greedo, this blue Snaggletooth to use them up, and another, and Hammerhead.
Yeah.
And Hammerhead. So the only way you could get this figure was to buy that playset.
Okay.
And they were very limited numbers because they pulled it when they realised the mistake they made. So if you go, for example, onto one of the auction sites or whatever, you'll pick one of these up for 25 quid.
Right.
Sure.
For one of these, you'll pay about 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because there's not very many of them about.
I've not got one.
Haven't you? I can
can
see you
ask-
twitching.
Yeah.
That is
I've not
amazing. I mean, I told you this story beforehand. As a child, I had every toy, everything to do with Star Wars. I loved them. I didn't want to play with them. They were all still boxed. They were immaculate, and they all ended up at Car Boot, and the whole lot went for a tenner.
Yeah.
The whole collection, because
Wow.
I was moving out, and Mum was like, "Oh, I'm going to do a car boot. I'm going to get rid of some of yours." So I was like, "Yeah. Just get rid of whatever you need." And everything,
Oh dear.
everything. Sorry, Mum, I know you're watching this. 10 quid. Everything had gone.
My mum
and
did a similar one. But I think I was so furious about that luckily my Star Wars didn't go anywhere. But she got rid of all my He-Man, and I was like, what?
Did you have Battle Cat?
I had all
Oh
of
my
them.
days!
So all my He-Man went, and I was
An
like,
Orko that you pulled and it spun.
don't you ever do that with Star Wars, Mum? So I managed to retain those.
Like Neil said, it's not a rare story though.
No,
It's a very common
Happens
story.
all the time. But you know, I had all the Thundercats. Like I said, I loved Orko because it had a little and it had that red pulley thing that as you pulled it out, it spun inside, and then Orko would spin round. And I mean, I always said that I was the love child of She-Ra. So you know,
Princess of Power.
I mean, I have the power. So. You brought up a few bits and pieces along, haven't you?
I did,
you put some really amazing posters on.
I thought I'll just bring you some posters to look at. So
we love a poster.
I mean, I do collect the kind of stuff a little bit like Neil does, but I've not got anything like his collection. But I do have a few bits. But when I started off collecting like Harrison Ford stuff, I was going to these little film fairs, as I say, and I was able to pick up stuff at the time. Most of it was the British stuff, very cheaply in the 90s.
Do you actually own anything that he actually owned? Anything real?
Nothing, not yet.
Nothing yet.
No, not yet.
Ooh, I like that.
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet. I mean, when you were talking to him a few months ago, you could have just.
Well, when I meet him again, I'm going to ask him if he's still got his Rolex Datejust from the 80s, and if he might just want to give me that.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
So this is I believe it's the third printing of the original Star Wars one-sheet movie poster there.
Wow.
They are just incredible. I mean, look at Mark Hamill's body on this picture. You know,
He was He Luke on this one.
yeah, he Luke. I was going to say back to He-Man.
But,
Is that the Hildebrand brothers?
the Hildebrand was the quad. It was only ever a quad. Oh my God, the Hildebrand just goes ridiculous. I think was this Cantrell or the Cantrell was the quad as well. I think this might be Young. I can't remember the name of the artist for this. I can tell you the name of the artist for the. Oh no, yeah, it was Young. Yeah, you can see it there.
You're like walking encyclopedias,
Tom
aren't you?
Hinckley, yeah.
Just a walking encyclopedia.
That was the Young, so I was right. I did get that right. And then I've got also. So this is the one that this is Drew Struzan, as we know, is a famous poster artist who did, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. He did the Star Wars Special Edition posters. But before that, he did do a Star Wars one, but he worked on it with another artist.
Right,
Another artist was involved, so Drew and the other artist whose name escapes me at the moment did this one. So this was Drew Struzan's first.
Drew Struzan is just incredible.
Now
That's the main man.
That's a nice one. I mean, that looks proper retro 80s, doesn't it?
I love that. It's called the Circus poster.
Wow.
It's known as the Circus poster.
How old is
one.
that?
So this is original 77. The Circus one. That first one might be a little bit later. It might be like a 79 or a 78 reissue.
I love
think.
that. Alex on that one as well.
Yeah.
Just how he stood there looking sideways.
They
that's
popped him in down the
beautiful.
rip there because apparently when they produced the piece, they realised that dimensions wise it was actually too small for what they needed to get it to the 27 by 40. So Drew put this extra panel in and did the ripping so that it became to fill the space. So I like that.
It's the Gone with the Wind one I like. That's my favourite.
That's my favourite.
Yeah.
I've got that.
And the thing, the story about Billy D. Why they had to change it because it were in Billy D's contract, so they had to be on every single poster.
Seriously?
Yes.
So that's why they had to change it because it was just.
In fact, I can show you a version. I didn't bring the poster with me today, but
And then sit yourself down.
inside.
So we've lost your head.
Inside,
there we go.
Inside my jacket.
There it is.
Yeah.
It's the Gone with the
Show
Wind.
it to that camera
It's the
there.
Gone with the Wind poster there.
So as you're talking about it, there it is. So Billy D's on that one then. He'll be down at the bottom, won't he?
Yeah, he's there,
He's contracted.
Yeah.
The thing, they actually removed characters as well, didn't they? They took Boba Fett and somebody else out, and there's very few versions that carry all those characters. But I seem to remember that they found one. It went a couple of years ago for about $70,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
This is serious money.
Yeah, me too, man.
Wow. So what other sort of film franchises are you into as well? Is there anything else that you're as passionate about? Or is it your life is Star Wars?
I do like there is other franchises. I do love indie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is the one I basically live, dream, work Star Wars.
Seriously.
It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And Spaceballs.
Yeah, Spaceballs is great.
Love a bit of Spaceballs.
Met the old Mel Brooks.
We've got some scrapbooks.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
While Neil's getting his scrapbooks out, I'll show you.
I brought these along because these are scrapbooks that I did in 77 onwards. But also because when I get asked what the favourite part of my collection is, my favourite item, it's not actually a toy. You might be surprised to learn.
Okay.
It's
I love this.
These tickets from the royal premiere of Empire Strikes Back, which I was lucky enough to go to. Yeah.
Oh my days.
And so I put them in the scrapbook, and you know what you're looking at are 2 tickets from 1980. But what I look at when I see those is a phenomenal night out, an amazing night out where all the cast were there. You know, I drove down to London, had to take a day off work and all that good stuff, and was one of the first people in the UK to see the sequel to Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
No, that's
Now, going off that, I've actually got Kenny Baker's original invite for the Empire Strikes Back premiere
seriously
Oh my
in
God.
LA.
So that's a one-off, the only one in the world.
Yeah, and then I've also got, because Kenny put everything in envelopes,
Right.
I've also got his letter that he had to send to the American Embassy, which actually said why he was travelling to the US.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh my God. I mean,
So,
these are priceless, aren't they? Realistically, they are just complete one-offs. You know, I doubt very much that anyone has kept them like that.
There's some incredible
pristine-
stuff in there.
Yeah.
One of the things you might not know about Paul is that Paul was very friendly with Kenny in his latter days, and even helped to look after him on a couple of occasions when he was ill. And the family gifted Paul Kenny's private number plates. So Paul's car has
Stop it.
R20, R2,
Yeah.
KGB, Kenny George Baker.
Oh my
Brilliant.
God.
He was a big fan of cars, wasn't he? Because I remember this was the only sort of stuff that I got to learn about these people early on, was because my dad's a singer as well, so he was an entertainer and he worked with Kenny when he was the Minitones with Jack Purvis and
But
so
people don't realise that
And he said
Kenny was famous before Star
yeah,
Wars.
exactly, yeah.
Really?
They were a big act.
Right.
Yeah.
And he Dad used to tell me that Kenny drove a Rolls then.
Stop it.
With like, you know,
Blocks.
with blocks on the pedals as he's driving this huge Rolls.
with,
Yeah.
with blocks on.
Yeah.
No, he did. If you look at there's a book out, Kenny Baker autobiography, and it's got a picture of his Rolls Royce in there.
There you
Really?
go.
Yeah.
There you
And I've actually got on the front of his Rolls Royce, he had a metal R2D2.
Really?
Yeah, on the grill.
Fantastic.
So I've actually got the original one of that, which is in
No.
the book.
That is amazing.
And another odd thing, but it's dead obvious when you think about it, is the first time I went to his house, when I went in his kitchen, you feel like a giant because the worktops are here,
Right.
Yeah.
not
Yes.
like and it's obvious he's had it made
Yeah,
for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the same with
Yeah.
you know Warwick Davis. Obviously, you know he's got a place in Manchester from when he's been filming. What's his TV show? Whatever.
Willow.
Tenable.
Tenable. Yeah.
And that's pretty much the same. You know, I bump into him quite regularly in the co-op. You know, it's a regular occurrence now. Hi mate. You know, I'm the guy who knocked you flying. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So mind's blown with all this. I mean, I didn't realise, you know, that you had all this collection. And so did you? Obviously, you know, a big Star Wars fan.
Some of the experience you've had is, I remember going to Dave Prowse's house because I used to do private signings with Dave
Yeah.
4 or 5 times a year, and I remember going up to his office and seeing some of his things, and he pulled out. I've got a photo somewhere. The original Green Cross Codeman costume.
Oh wow!
So he's got the original boots, and he's still got the original.
I love that.
And I remember when the Green Cross Codeman came out,
Yeah.
people don't realise how many people that campaign actually saved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was
Because
really proud
before
of
then
that.
there was no road safety whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then Dave started doing that. So, you know,
so
it's
proud of it.
amazing.
But, like,
You know,
when's it-
I'll just tell you quickly. So my dad met Dave on the QE2 years ago when my dad was singing on the QE2, and he came back from that trip with the Green Cross Code Man song 45 vinyl signed by Dave and a Star Wars figure, which I still had. And then at your last event where Dave was there, and there's a little YouTube video of it, you can find it on the Fighting Forward website in one of the blogs. Me and Dave sang the Green Cross Code Man song together.
I listen to these like all day.
Oh, seriously, all day. You're going to have to come back because I want to ask you questions of how long it actually took to film the movies, and I wanted to talk about Alec Guinness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But please come back on. You're always welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your passion, and we're going to bring the cameras to your house so our viewers can see exactly what the collection you've got. Thank you for joining us, and a huge shout out to Paddy, Neil, Paul, TV wife. We'll see you next time for more adventures here on Creatives on the Couch. Bye for now.